Welcome in to Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Lugo. Thank you so much for being here with me. Right now, we're talking about the Jaguars' biggest concerns down the stretch here. 6 games left on the Jaguars 2022 schedule. This is a team that's 4-7. They're talking about trying to make a playoff run. They are coming off a big win, come from behind win over the Baltimore Ravens that got them to 4-7. Prior to that, they had the bye week, so they're kind of looking at the last 7-game stretch of their season, now 6-game stretch, as a season unto its own, as its own individual season, and a season that if they're able to run the table or get close to running the table, that they'll be able to sneak in to the playoffs after a stretch of games where they lost 5 in a row. A team that looked like it was down and out based on the wins and losses department, but they're creeping their way back in here. They've got 2 contests against the team in first place in their division coming up. They've also got another divisional contest. So there are opportunities here for the Jaguars to make this interesting, to control their own destiny. If the Jaguars go up and beat the Detroit Lions this weekend and the Titans fall to the Eagles, as they likely will, or they should, all of a sudden the Jaguars control their own destiny. At 5-7, with the Titans being at 7-5, if they lose to the Eagles, the Jaguars would have control of their own destiny with 2 games left against those Tennessee Titans. So we're going to go through the top concerns, right? Obviously, this season is not over. 6 games left. The Jaguars have an opportunity to go on a run and push for the playoffs. They believe within that building that that's the trajectory that they're headed on. It starts with Detroit this next weekend, obviously. Started with Baltimore, but continues with Detroit. Can the Jaguars go up to Detroit and beat the Lions? We'll find out. But the top concerns for me is what we're going to get into right now, just in terms of the Jaguars making this push. What is going to hold them back from making this playoff push? Those are the things we're going to be looking at today. I'd like to remind you to follow me on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. You can also hit the like and subscribe button to help support the channel here. You can hit the notification bell so you don't miss a show. Really appreciate y'all's support. It means the world to me. Could not be doing this without y'all tuning in and supporting the channel. So I really appreciate it. My number one concern has been my number one concern for this team for a couple months at least. And that's left cornerback play, right? You've got Tyson Campbell playing really well, primarily aligns on the right side of the defensive formation. You've got Darius Williams, who in base will align at left corner, which is fine. I'm good with that. But then when you get a nickel, which is what you're running primarily most of the time in the NFL at this point, you've got an issue because Darius Williams kicks inside. He plays fairly well, in my opinion, at nickel. But at left cornerback, what are you doing? You've got Buster Brown. You've got Chris Claybrooks. You've got Trey Herndon. You've got a guy came in off the street this past week that came in and played some left cornerback for the Jaguars. Maybe you get Shaquille Griffin back at some point. I think that gives you a little bit more confidence in your left cornerback spot. But even prior to his injury, prior to going on IR, he was struggling in a big way at the left cornerback spot. So I think, in this modern league of teams throwing the ball and, you having to play in nickel, that's a concern for me. I don't know how the Jaguars are able to stop some opposing offenses. One of those offenses, probably the most talented offense the Jaguars will face over the next 6 weeks. First or second most talented. They've got the Lions and the Cowboys, but the Lions are this weekend. This is a talented offense. Jared Goff is playing good football. Is he a franchise quarterback? No. He's got a really talented offensive line, a good play caller, good receivers, and good running backs. And that makes for an offense that is humming right now, and they've been pretty hot. If you don't have a guy who can play cornerback on the left side, I think an offense like this should be able to try to attack you in that area. So that's a big concern. I'm also concerned with middle of the field coverage when it doesn't involve players named Andre Cisco or Darius Williams. Andre Cisco, I think, has really stepped up over the last month or so. Darius Williams, same thing. I think he's been solid after a slow start, transitioning into the nickel spot, not having had any preseason or training camp really to get the feel of things there. But I think Darius Williams and Andre Cisco are playing well. I don't think that the Jaguars linebackers are doing a good job getting the depth that they need in these zone defenses. And I think that, quite frankly, while Rayshon Jenkins is having a standout year as a run defender, as a space player, as someone who is fantastic in pursuit, as someone who can make plays in the passing game, he is far too inconsistent in coverage. When you circle Rayshon Jenkins, if you're an offense and you're like, where is this guy going to be on the field? That's usually an area that you can target when it comes to the passing game. Despite some of the big plays he's made, despite how good he has been in run defense and in pursuit, he is not good in coverage right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So when you talk about all that space in the middle of the field that the zone defenses provide for offenses, the only players that really close down that space with any consistent effectiveness are Andre Cisco and Darius Williams. Foye Oluokun, you get a little bit of that from him, but he's usually a fairly easy target as well in coverage. Whether it's Devin Lloyd or Chad Muma, I think both of those players not providing a whole lot in pass coverage right now. So that's a concern for me as well. Not as concerning as left cornerback, because I think that is just really easy to circle and target if you're an opposing offense. I'm also concerned about Travis Etienne's health. This is one of the most explosive runners in football, if not the most explosive running back in the game today. He exited the contest against the Ravens after the first carry of the game, after his first carry of the game, with a foot injury, foot sprain on the same foot where he suffered the Liz Frank injury last year that kept him out the entire season. Doug says this is not the same injury. It's not anywhere close. That was the Liz Frank, and this is just a sprain, a foot sprain. However, he didn't come back into that contest. He's still day-to-day moving forward. The biggest thing you want with Travis Etienne is to make sure that he has his health long-term with this foot. But if the Jaguars are going to make a playoff push, they're probably going to need Travis Etienne to be able to play and be effective at some point. If he's not able to get back to where he was, this offense is going to face some problems because, yes, they did it without him last week against the Baltimore Ravens, but they're going to have a running game. And when Travis Etienne is not on the field, they do not have a consistent running game. At some point, they're going to have to run the football. At some point, they're going to need his explosive plays. You're not going to get the level of production from Zay Jones and Marvin Jones and JaMychal Hasty and all those players like you did every single week against Baltimore. It's just not going to happen every week. You need Travis Etienne down the stretch. And of course, don't rush him back if he's not ready. But his health is a long-term and a short-term concern for the Jaguars, in my opinion. Pass rush consistency, we've talked about it on here. It's pass rush for the Jaguars has come and gone. I thought they had a good game overall against the Ravens, moving Lamar Jackson off his spot, forcing him out of his comfort zone, forcing a lot of incompletions with that pass rush. But Trayvon Walker, 0 pressures in that game. He did pick up that holding penalty late in the game that would have led to either a quarterback pressure, a quarterback hit, or a sack. So he did get that going late in the game, which you're happy to see. But this whole group, I don't know if it's how they're being coached up front by Mike Caldwell, how they're being coached to play some of these dynamic quarterbacks, but the pass rush consistency has not been there after the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. It's been very up and down. They're going to need to find more consistency to be able to keep getting off the field. A concern I have for the Jaguars that might not rear its ugly head down the stretch is defending these running quarterbacks. Jared Goff, not a mobile quarterback. Ryan Tannehill, Titans quarterback, you're going to face him twice. He has been a mobile quarterback throughout his career, has not been running the ball very much lately as he came back from injury, has not really been trying to use his legs, but he's killed the Jaguars with his legs in the past, so that could pop up against Tannehill, even though he's not looking quite like the runner he used to be. Dak Prescott is not a running quarterback. He can beat you with his legs, but that's not their bread and butter. Who's going to be quarterbacking for the Jets? Probably Mike White. Texans, Davis Mills. So I don't think that the whole mobile quarterback issue is going to be as big of an issue for the Jaguars as it has been in games like against the Ravens, against the Chiefs, against the Giants, Eagles. You don't have that type of quarterback mobility on your schedule moving forward, so that's a good thing. But still concerning for me, it's just the fact that you got to beat the Titans and the Texans. The Jaguars struggle against both of these franchises. You got to beat the Titans twice. Twice in a 5-week span. And you've got to go to Houston and beat the Texans, a team who you have not beaten since 2017. Matchup-wise, I think you look at those contests and you're like, well, I think we feel all right about those contests, matchup-wise. But something about Mike Vrabel's bunch with the Titans, their toughness, their tenacity, their level of execution. Derrick Henry. I mean, that's a tough team for the Jaguars. And the Texans. The Jaguars should have beat the Texans earlier this year. They should have beat them twice last year. They can't do it right now. They have not shown the ability to do it. And for them, the Jaguars, if they do go on a nice little run here and they're in position to compete for a playoff spot over the last 2 weeks, it's at Houston and Titans at home. That's concerning. Now, if you didn't have two games against the Titans, you wouldn't have that belief that, if we go beat this team twice, we have a chance to be in front of them. So you need to be able to play the Titans in this scenario for the Jaguars. You need the Titans on your schedule because to sneak past them, you got to hand them a couple fat L's. But it's going to be tough. And, if they finish with the same record, the Jaguars and the Titans, the Jaguars will hold the tiebreaker because they will have beaten the Titans twice, in all likelihood, if they finish with the same record. Again, Jaguars at Lions, if the Jaguars win that game and if the Eagles beat the Titans this weekend, the Jaguars are in control of their own destiny, which is not something I expected to say a month ago. But that's the way the NFL is. It's wild. It's wonky. The Jaguars have a shot here, but there are some concerns. Those concerns are what we just went over. Left cornerback play, middle of the field coverage outside of Andre Sisco and Darius Williams. And I do think you get some high-level moments from Foye Oluokun. You get some splash plays from Rayshon Jenkins. But a lot of the time, if you're targeting those two areas, you're going to be all right. Travis Etienne's health is of primary concern. You want him back, but you also want him healthy long-term, so you can't be stupid about it. And then having to play the Titans and Texans. It's what you need because you need to beat those teams to get into the playoffs, but you haven't been able to do that very often throughout recent memory. Haven't been able to beat the Titans or the Texans. That's going to do it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what you think about these concerns. At Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar, at Generation Jag. Hit the like and subscribe button, notification bell. You can also become a channel member here on YouTube, and you can check out genjag.com to get some new Duval gear. Really appreciate y'all's support. Again, it means the world to me. I could not be doing this without you guys tuning in. So it's everything to me. Thank you so much, Duval. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.